Hello, CED525. Welcome to week 5 of the course, which is the final week. You all have done it. Once this week is done, that is the end of the course. So thank you all for your dedication and wonderful effort that you've put into the course. I have truly enjoyed reading your work and working with you this semester. So for week 5, we are discussing telehealth, and then we're also going to discuss addiction in the criminal justice system, including juvenile justice. So today's lecture on telehealth and addiction treatment and the connections between addiction and justice in the criminal justice system, which we will talk about adult and juvenile populations. We'll also explore how technology can expand access to care and how we, as either helping professionals, advocates, or just treatment professionals in different disciplines, can support individuals during and after criminal justice involvement. So first off, we're going to talk about telehealth and addiction treatment. So telehealth refers to the use of technology that can include video conferencing, phone calls, or secure messaging. And we use this technology to provide healthcare services remotely. So in the context of addiction treatment, telehealth has been an increasingly vital tool, especially in response to different barriers like transportation, stigma, rural access, and provider shortages. Telehealth can be used for a number of things, including individual and group counseling sessions, medication assisted treatment, monitoring and support, psychoeducation and relapse prevention, case management, and coordination of care. So, telehealth offers this flexibility and continuity and privacy by helping people engage in treatment who might not otherwise access care. For those in recovery, telehealth can maintain that critical support even when life circumstances change. Now, of course, there's always some challenges as well. So, some of the challenges include limited access to reliable internet or devices, confidentiality concerns, and unstable or unsafe living environments, the difficulty of reading nonverbal cues in virtual formats, and still, when telehealth is done well, it expands access and can be a lifeline, particularly for those that are up against different systemic barriers, like I said, such as individuals living in rural areas, lacking transportation. And it can even be used, as we're going to talk about more, in justice involved populations, and because they may face reentry barriers. So then that brings us to the addiction and criminal justice system. So there has been a well documented connection between addiction and the criminal justice system. A significant portion of individuals in jails and prisons have a substance use disorder. Some estimates suggest that it's as high as 65% to 85% of incarcerated individuals are substance involved. Addiction related behaviors such as possession, theft, or driving under the influence often lead to arrest and incarceration. But incarceration rarely treats addiction. In fact, many correctional facilities lack the adequate treatment services, and people often relapse, return to use, or overdose shortly after their release. And this is often due to loss of tolerance and lack of support. So there are some interventions aimed at change that is in the criminal justice system, and those include drug courts and diversion programs, and they offer treatment instead of incarceration. Also, there are jail and prison-based addiction counseling. And then there's reentry planning that includes medication assisted training, um, medication assisted treatment, sorry, housing support, and counseling. So again, I will mention some of those interventions again. Drug courts and diversion programs, jail and prison-based addiction counseling, and reentry planning that includes medication assisted treatment, housing support, and counseling. But systemic barriers like stigma, criminal records, lack of insurance, and unstable housing often make reentry difficult. And treatment continuity is often lost during those transitions. So then we're going to talk about addiction in the juvenile justice system. So in the juvenile justice system, addiction is also a major concern. And many involved youth have experienced early substance use, co-occurring mental health disorders, histories of trauma, neglect, or abuse, poverty, systemic racism, and school pushout. So youth may enter the system for drug-related charges or for behaviors tied to substance use. Now, unfortunately, the detention environments don't always provide trauma-informed or developmentally appropriate care, and many criminal justice involvement increases. I'm sorry, and early criminal justice involvement increases the risk of future incarceration. So, some effective addiction treatment for youth in the justice system includes family involvement and counseling, developmentally appropriate interventions, trauma informed care, mentorship and skill building, aftercare services that extend beyond their release. And it's important that we intervene early because if we intervene early, we can also disrupt that school to prison pipeline and support that long term recovery. So, how do we support people who are justice involved? Number one, we must build trust and not judgment. Many clients have experienced institutional betrayal and stigma, and we must show up with empathy and consistency. Secondly, we must be reentry involved. That means we must understand the realities of reentry. We must understand what that means, right? We must understand the lack of housing, job discrimination, court fees, and the disconnection from family. Third, we must use trauma informed approaches. So many justice involved individuals have extensive trauma histories. Again, not everyone, but many individuals. So treatment should prioritize emotional safety and empowerment. Also, we should coordinate care. So we should link clients with community resources, peer support, legal advocacy, and medication assisted treatment programs. And lastly, we should leverage telehealth where possible, right? Because especially for clients with transportation challenges or live in treatment deserts, or telehealth can be part of the solution if it's accessible and secure. So our goal isn't just sobriety, as we talked about abstinence, right? And harm reduction in this course, but it's about helping people rebuild their lives, reconnect with community, and reclaim their sense of dignity and agency. So I'm going to leave you with a couple of reflection questions that I want you to kind of reflect upon as you go through this week's module. So, how might you adapt your own treatment approach or your advocacy efforts to better serve clients who are re-entering society after incarceration? Second question, what are some of your assumptions or biases about people who are justice involved? And how might those impact the treatment or working relationship? And lastly, how can telehealth be used not only as a tool for treatment, but also as a way to increase equity and access for those impacted by systems of incarceration or by other systemic barriers? So, as always, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being involved in the course. And let's always remember whether we work in clinical settings, schools, community agencies, or correctional systems, we all have a role in supporting justice involved individuals towards recovery, healing, and hope. And we should also broaden our horizons as we think about telehealth and what that means and how it can be utilized. So, thank you for being here for week 5. I look forward to reading your assignments, and I hope you have a wonderful um, I hope you have a wonderful week. Your assignments include a discussion board prompt. Also, you have a assignment that is a 3 to 5 page paper or a 10 to 12 slide presentation with or without audio that addresses these particular questions that are listed. And then you also have a 3 to 5 page paper that's about telehealth. And so it's a couple of questions and prompts there. And that is it for this week. So again, I look forward to reading your work. I hope you have a great rest of the week and take care.